White woman demands black teen leave pool. Speechless. When his governor mom arrive. If you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. It was a sunny afternoon at the Riverdale Community Pool, where laughter and splashes filled the air. Among the neighborhood kids eager to escape the heat was Jordan Reed, a 15-year-old who had recently moved to the area with his mom, Senator Alana Reed, a rising political figure known for her bold leadership. Jordan was excited. It was his first time at the pool since the move. Carrying his towel over his shoulder and swim gear in hand, he couldn't wait to dive in and relax. For him, it wasn't just about cooling off. It was a chance to feel like a normal teenager in a new neighborhood. But while Jordan walked toward the gate with a carefree smile, someone else was watching. Margaret Davis, a longtime resident in her early 50s, sat near the pool entrance, her sharp eyes scanning the area like a self-appointed security guard. Known for always keeping an eye out, Margaret had built a reputation as the neighborhood watchdog, often stepping in where no one had asked her to. As Jordan entered the pool area, Margaret's expression shifted. She didn't recognize him, and for her, that was enough to spark suspicion. Jordan barely had time to settle before Margaret approached him. She walked with purpose, her posture stiff and her tone sharp. "Excuse me," she said, blocking his path. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" Jordan, caught off guard, stopped and turned toward her. "Hi," he said politely, his smile faltering. "I'm Jordan. I just moved here with my mom a couple of weeks ago." Margaret narrowed her eyes. "Moved here? Where exactly? I've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years, and I don't remember seeing you." Jordan adjusted his towel, trying to stay composed. "We live on Maple Drive, just a few streets over." Margaret's skepticism only grew. "Maple Drive? Then you should have no problem proving it," she said, folding her arms. "This pool is for residents only. Do you have an ID? A pool pass?" Jordan blinked, confused by the sudden interrogation. "I didn't bring any ID. I just came here to swim." Margaret wasn't satisfied. Her tone became even sharper. "Well, if you can't prove you live here, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Jordan looked around, hoping someone might step in, but the nearby pool-goers were busy pretending not to notice. The lifeguards glanced over briefly, but made no move to intervene. The carefree summer day was quickly turning into a public standoff. Jordan took a deep breath, his calm composure masking the growing frustration inside him. He kept his voice steady. "Ma'am, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to enjoy the pool like everyone else." But Margaret wasn't backing down. Her voice grew louder, drawing glances from other parents lounging nearby. "If you really live here, it shouldn't be so hard to prove it," she said, folding her arms tightly across her chest. The laughter and splashes around the pool began to quiet as more people noticed the confrontation. Some parents exchanged awkward glances, but no one stepped in to help. The lifeguards fidgeted in their chairs, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to get involved. Jordan stood his ground, trying his best to remain respectful. "I already told you I live on Maple Drive. I just didn't think I'd need an ID to go for a swim." Margaret let out a sharp laugh. "Well, maybe you should have thought about that before coming here." The poolside tension was thick now, the kind of moment that makes people pause and watch, unsure of what to do. Jordan looked around again, hoping for a lifeline. But all he saw were silent faces and whispered conversations. Margaret's voice cut through the stillness like a blade. "If you can't prove you belong here, then you need to leave. I'll call security if I have to." Jordan's pulse quickened, but he refused to let her see him falter. "I'm not trespassing," he said firmly. "This is my neighborhood too." Margaret raised her eyebrows, clearly unimpressed. "Then prove it." Margaret's voice grew sharper, her frustration now on full display. "If you can't prove you belong here, I'll have to get the management involved. This pool isn't open to just anyone." The murmurs among the bystanders grew louder. Parents whispered uneasily, exchanging uncertain looks. A few kids stopped playing, their eyes darting between Jordan and Margaret. Still, no one intervened. Jordan clenched his fists at his sides, his mind racing. He knew better than to raise his voice or show any sign of anger. It would only make things worse. Instead, he took another deep breath and spoke evenly. "You don't need to call anyone, ma'am. I live here," he said, his words firm but calm. But Margaret wasn't listening. She pulled out her phone, dialing with exaggerated urgency. "Hello? Yes, this is Margaret Davis. I'm at the Riverdale pool, and there's an unauthorized person here. I think you should send someone right away." Jordan's chest tightened at her words. Unauthorized person. He glanced around, hoping for even a shred of support, but the crowd remained silent. The lifeguards shifted nervously in their chairs, clearly aware of the tension but still unwilling to step in. A few parents avoided eye contact altogether, their discomfort evident. Others nodded quietly, as if silently agreeing with Margaret's actions. Minutes later, the tension reached its peak as two security guards strode through the gate. Their presence commanded immediate attention, and the air around the pool grew still. One of the guards, a tall man with a clipboard, approached Jordan. "We've had a report of someone trespassing," the guard said, his tone firm. "Can you tell us your name and why you're here?" Jordan straightened his back, holding his ground. "My name is Jordan Reed," he said confidently. "I live in this neighborhood, and I'm just here to swim." The guard raised an eyebrow, glancing at Margaret, who stood nearby with a smug expression. "Do you have proof of residency? An ID or pool pass?" Jordan shook his head. "I didn't bring anything with me. I came here right after school." Before the guards could respond, Margaret cut in, her tone dripping with condescension. "Oh, please. If he really lived here, he'd have no problem proving it." The guard hesitated, looking between Margaret and Jordan. Around them, the crowd watched intently, their whispers growing louder. Jordan pulled out his phone, his hands trembling slightly as he began typing a message to his mother. "Mom," the text read, "can you come to the pool? There's a problem." As Jordan waited for his mom to respond, the weight of the situation pressed down on him. Margaret stood triumphantly to the side, her arms crossed as if she had already won. "You see?" she said, her voice loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. "If he really belonged here, he wouldn't need to text someone to prove it." Jordan's jaw tightened, but he didn't reply. Instead, he hit send on the message and looked toward the security guards, hoping for a fair chance to explain himself. The taller guard spoke first, his voice firm but measured. "Look, without proof of residency, we might have to ask you to leave until we can sort this out." Jordan opened his mouth to protest, but before he could respond, Margaret interrupted again. "Honestly, this shouldn't even be a discussion. He doesn't belong here. Just escort him out already." Her words cut through the air, sharp and decisive. Around the pool, parents exchanged uneasy glances. A few people fidgeted in their chairs, while others whispered among themselves. But still, no one stepped forward to help Jordan. He took a deep breath, refusing to let the mounting frustration show on his face. "My mom is on her way," he said evenly. "You can talk to her when she gets here." Margaret rolled her eyes, her voice dripping with condescension. "Oh, I'm sure she'll have a wonderful excuse for why you're here." Just then, the sound of an approaching car broke through the tension. The sleek black vehicle came to a stop just outside the pool's entrance. Its polished exterior gleamed in the sunlight, immediately drawing the crowd's attention. Margaret glanced toward the car, her confident expression faltering ever so slightly. Jordan, however, recognized it instantly. He straightened his shoulders, relief washing over him. The car door opened, and out stepped Senator Alana Reed, dressed sharply in her work attire. Her presence was commanding, the quiet authority in her movements instantly shifting the atmosphere. Margaret's smug demeanor wavered as Alana made her way toward the group, her heels clicking against the pavement. She stopped beside her son, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder before addressing the crowd. Her voice was calm but firm. What seems to be the problem here? The air around the pool fell silent as Senator Alana Reid's gaze swept over the group. Her calm, commanding presence immediately shifted the dynamics of the confrontation. Margaret's confidence faltered, her crossed arms dropping slightly as she took a hesitant step back. The security guards straightened instinctively, exchanging nervous glances. Alana turned to Jordan first, her voice soft and reassuring. "Are you okay?" Jordan nodded, his expression steady but relieved. "Yeah, Mom, I'm fine." Satisfied, Alana turned her attention to the security guards, her tone sharpening. "Now, someone explain to me why my son is being treated like a trespasser in his own neighborhood." The taller guard cleared his throat awkwardly. "Ma'am, we were just responding to a call. There was a concern raised about unauthorized access." Alana raised an eyebrow. "Unauthorized access?" she repeated, her words cutting through the silence. "Did you ask for his side of the story before deciding he didn't belong here?" The guard hesitated, glancing at Margaret, who now looked visibly uneasy. We didn't get that far," he admitted. Alana's gaze shifted to Margaret, her calm exterior concealing the fire in her voice. "And you," she said, "what exactly gave you the authority to interrogate my son and assume he doesn't belong here?" Margaret stammered, her usual composure slipping. I was just looking out for the community," she said weakly. "I didn't recognize him, so I thought—" "You thought what?" Alana interrupted, her tone unwavering. "That he didn't belong here because you didn't recognize him? That's not concern, that's bias." The pool area grew even quieter, the weight of Alana's words hanging in the air. Margaret's face flushed as she struggled to find a response. Alana's voice remained calm, but carried an unmistakable edge as she addressed Margaret directly. "You assumed my son didn't belong here, and without evidence, you escalated the situation. Tell me, would you have done the same if it were someone else's child?" Margaret's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her confidence was now replaced with visible discomfort. Around the pool, the once silent crowd began to stir. A few parents shifted in their chairs, their expressions now betraying guilt. Whispers grew louder, rippling through the bystanders as they realized the gravity of the situation. Alana turned her attention back to the security guards. "And you," she said, her tone growing sharper, "your job is to ensure the safety and fairness of this facility, not to act on assumptions. Did you think to ask my son anything beyond what you were told by her?" She motioned toward Margaret. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, clearly uncomfortable under her piercing gaze. The taller one spoke up hesitantly. We were just trying to address the concern, ma'am. We didn't mean to offend." Alana didn't let up. "Offense isn't the issue. Discrimination is. You listened to one person and dismissed a teenager's right to enjoy the same community space as everyone else. This isn't just poor judgment, it's enabling prejudice." Margaret, now visibly flustered, tried to salvage the situation. "I didn't mean anything by it," she stammered. "I just wanted to make sure everything was in order." "In order?" Alana repeated, her voice cutting through Margaret's excuses. "What was out of order here? A teenager enjoying a summer afternoon at a pool? Or was it simply the fact that you didn't recognize him and decided that made him suspicious?" The tension around the pool was palpable, and Margaret seemed to shrink under the weight of Alana's words. The guards remained silent, their postures stiff, as the crowd continued to watch the scene unfold. Margaret stood frozen, her confidence now completely unraveling under Alana's unwavering gaze. She opened her mouth to respond, but couldn't form a coherent excuse. The crowd, previously silent, began to shift. A parent sitting by the pool finally spoke up, their voice hesitant but clear. She's right, they said, gesturing toward Alana. This shouldn't have happened. I saw it, and I didn't say anything. I'm sorry, Jordan. Their words broke the silence, sparking murmurs among the bystanders. Another person chimed in. Yeah, this isn't right. No one should be treated like this, especially a kid. The security guards exchanged looks, their earlier authority now replaced with visible regret. The shorter guard stepped forward, his tone low. Ma'am, we want to apologize, he said, looking at Alana. We didn't handle this the way we should have. We're sorry for what your son went through. The taller guard nodded in agreement. We'll review our protocols to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Alana's expression softened slightly as she addressed the guards. Apologies are a start, she said. But what matters more is action. This isn't just about policies, it's about people. Recognize the biases that led to this and work to do better, not just today, but every day moving forward. Margaret, still standing awkwardly to the side, fidgeted nervously. The crowd's growing disapproval was impossible to ignore. Her face flushed, and her once defiant posture had crumbled into defeat. Without a word, she began gathering her things. The murmurs from the crowd followed her as she hurriedly left the pool area, her shoulders slumped. Alana turned to the lifeguards, one of whom had climbed down from their perch. Their face was filled with regret. I should have stepped in sooner, the lifeguard admitted, their voice shaky. This is on me too. I promised to report this and push for better training for everyone here. Alana nodded, her voice steady but encouraging. Acknowledging the issue is the first step. But remember, it's not enough to avoid doing harm, you have to actively stand against it when you see it. Her words resonated with the crowd, many of whom nodded in agreement. Some even clapped softly, the sound spreading as more joined in. As the clapping subsided, a parent near the edge of the pool stood up and walked toward Alana and Jordan. Their expression was heavy with guilt. I should have spoken up earlier, they admitted, their voice shaky. I saw what was happening, and I didn't do anything. I'm sorry, Jordan. Jordan nodded politely, his face calm but distant. Thank you, he said quietly, though the weight of the moment still lingered in his eyes. The security guard stepped forward again, their earlier unease now replaced with humility. The shorter one spoke first. Senator Reed, he began, his voice firm but sincere. We owe you and your son a proper apology. This could have been handled so much better. We'll make sure our team is trained to prevent this from happening again. Alana gave a small nod, acknowledging the apology. Words matter, she said, her voice firm but measured. But action matters more. This isn't just about fixing one situation, it's about changing the culture that allows it to happen in the first place. She turned to address the entire crowd, her voice carrying across the pool area. What happened here today isn't just about one person's actions, it's about all of us. Discrimination thrives in silence. It's not enough to avoid being part of the problem, you have to take a stand when you see injustice. That's how we create a stronger, more just community. The crowd listened intently, many nodding in agreement. Some clapped softly again, while others exchanged meaningful looks. Margaret, now standing off to the side, looked completely defeated. Her shoulders slumped as she gathered her things and hurriedly left the pool, avoiding eye contact with everyone. The tension that had filled the air earlier now shifted, replaced by a collective sense of accountability. Jordan stood quietly beside his mother, his posture finally relaxing. While the day had been far from what he'd imagined, the strength his mom had shown gave him a sense of reassurance. As the afternoon sun began to dip lower in the sky, Alana placed a reassuring hand on Jordan's shoulder. Her presence spoke louder than words. She wasn't just his mother, she was his unwavering defender. Are you okay? She asked, her voice soft now, no longer carrying the sharpness from earlier. Jordan nodded, his shoulders relaxing for the first time since the ordeal began. Yeah, Mom, I'm good now, he said, his voice steady but tinged with gratitude. They turned to leave, walking side by side toward the car that had already made such an unforgettable entrance. The crowd watched them go, the energy of the moment still thick in the air. Whispers turned into conversations, some filled with regret, others with resolve. Before they reached the gate, one of the security guards called out, "Senator Reed," he said, stepping forward. His face was etched with remorse, but also with determination. "We're truly sorry for what your son went through. I promise we'll do better." The second guard nodded in agreement, adding, "This shouldn't have happened. Thank you for holding us accountable." Alana paused, turning back toward the group. Her gaze swept over the security guards, the lifeguards, and the now reflective crowd. "Accountability is a good start," she said, her voice calm but resolute. "But real change requires more than apologies. It requires consistent action. Don't let this moment pass without learning something from it." Her words hung in the air as she and Jordan exited the pool area. The sharp sound of her heels against the pavement echoed as they reached the car. Jordan climbed in first, glancing back at the pool one last time. The place where he had felt humiliated now represented something more, a reminder of resilience and the power of speaking up. As Alana got into the driver's seat, she looked over at Jordan with a quiet smile. "You handled yourself with dignity today," she said. "I'm proud of you." Jordan nodded, a small smile breaking through his otherwise serious expression. "Thanks, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you." They drove off as the pool slowly returned to its usual rhythm, though the impact of the day lingered. For everyone present, it was a moment that wouldn't be forgotten, a sharp reminder that standing against injustice is a responsibility shared by all. Moments like these remind us that silence enables injustice, but action creates change. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more impactful stories that inspire conversations and challenge perceptions.